Do you think they see alien before?
Aliens?
That's a new one.
Hi, it's good evening there, but good morning
Hi,
here.
Lisa. How are
Good
you?
morning.
Let me state as plainly as I can. The greatest threat the United States faces is posed by the Soviet Union. History has asked much of the Americans of our time. Much we have already given. Much more we must be prepared to give.
There might be fans who doesn't see season 1. Would they understand and feel relate to the season 2?
Yeah, I would love for folks who haven't seen season 1 to see season 2. Our story it's serial in the sense that we're watching these guys go on a journey from, point A to point Z. But at the same time, because we have this big gap between season 1 and season 2, exactly 10 years, it's almost like seeing an old friend at the store who you haven't seen in ages. Yes, you may not know, you haven't met her baby, you haven't met her husband, so much has changed, she's moved to a new city, but she's still the same girl that you've always loved and known. And so I think for us, we would love for folks to start off at season 1 and watch our characters through the whole journey. But I think absolutely, if you don't have the time to commit to watching a full first season, dive in episode 1 of season 2. Absolutely.
Yeah, good. Absolutely. And how about Wrenn?
I feel like I cannot improve upon what Krys just said. It's absolutely
Nailed
true.
It.
Yeah.
Nailed it.
Definitely.
If just one line said you're going to introduce the whole episode from season 1 to 2, what would you say?
I think if you're a fan of space at all, or even if you're not, there's so much to learn and marvel at in the show. And then on top of that, if you've ever been a fan of a period show like Mad Men or something like that, this show brings those two sort of rich worlds together, and it then ultimately becomes about a cast of fascinating characters.
The president wants us to confront the Soviets on the moon.
They're gonna need weapons, right?
I think, as Jodi said, I think it's a very human story against a very magnificent backdrop. I think season 2 also brings in this idea of politicizing the moon, an area that for season 1 was just this unknown frontier and this extraordinary star that we had to conquer. In season 2 has become a territory that two nations are warring over. I mean, for Molly, that's just a tragedy and a travesty of our responsibility as astronauts.
Does the character related to you at all in the real life, since you've been joining this project for 2 years?
I mean, it's what's been interesting, but especially since we have so many women on our show, is as we've all gotten to know each other, to me it becomes more and more apparent why Krys Marshall is so perfect to play Danielle Poole, and why Sarah Jones is so perfect to play Tracy Stevens, and the same's true for Jodi Balfour and Sonya Walger and Chantal Van Santen and Coral Pina and Cynthia Wu. We are all in some way so similar to our characters and at the same time entirely different. But I see little pieces, I feel like, of each character and each character in all of us. There's something about the essence of each of us, in relationship to our characters that I feel like is really special. And I don't even know how you act that.
Yeah. And I think, you have to, in my opinion, part of the work is taking pieces of yourself and putting it into the story and allowing it to affect you. So, I have never been to the moon, right? Naturally. And I'm not a scientist, okay, of course. But I know what it's like to love somebody who's struggling. I know what it's like to fight really hard for a job that people don't think that you can do. I know what it's like to be the only Black woman in a room full of white men. There's so many things about Danielle that are so far from me, and her mind is so much better than mine is. But then there are so many other things about her love for family, her loyalty, her commitment to her friendships, that are very close to home. I don't have to act that part. It's just natural.
It's very interesting to know that this is a rewrite story of the history. If you can rewrite something of your character in season 2, what would it be?
Oh. It's hard to answer. Yeah, it's hard to answer without giving some story points away.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm also being cheesy because I want to gift my character a happier ending.
Exactly.
Always.
So in that way, she's not happy.
We have to wait and see. There's happiness. There's some happiness.
This movie is a way to express the power of women, and it's something to talk about gender equality. Do you think women can be a better astronaut than men?
I mean, Molly would say yes. Molly Cobb would tell you that women just blow men out the water. I don't know. I think there's a reason we have 2 genders, I think, or 3. I think nobody's better or worse. I think we should just all be human beings, contributing our absolute best to whatever endeavor we're involved with, be it acting or launching a rocket. I'm a believer in the best man or woman for the job. I don't really care what underwear you're wearing.
And how about Judy? Do you agree or disagree?
Yes, no, totally.
I totally agree. I think there's both validity and sort of wasted breath when we talk about specific feminine traits and masculine traits being better suited to things. Is absolutely, that's worth taking into consideration, but ultimately we're all just people at the end of the day. And I think we've heard a lot of female astronauts in real life actually recently talk about being very ready to get to a place where they're not qualified by their gender. Every time something boundary breaking happens, it's like, how about we all get to the point where we're just talking about the person for their achievement rather than it being because of their gender. So I'm very grateful that women are astronauts now and that we get to sort of explore that in our show. But I agree with Sonya. I think it's about the best human being for the job.
So after, just participating for all mankind for 2 seasons, do you actually want to be an astronaut? Wish? No. Or do you have the urge to, want to be part of the NASA history?
I like pretending to be an astronaut. I'm very happy with just pretending to be an astronaut. And I'm very happy with getting to know, real astronauts. That's been a real perk of the job, has been getting to talk to people who've actually been to space, to people who work at NASA. It gives you an indication of just the depth and breadth of knowledge required and expertise required. I was thinking this the other day, I would be possibly the worst astronaut
imaginable.
I'm just I don't remember things. I don't see things through. I hate following instructions. My son gets a Lego kit, and I'm like, let's just see if we can patch this together, shall we? Like I was literally laughing the other day at what an appalling astronaut I would be.
Ditto. I don't even like roller coasters anymore. Like, do not strap me to a rocket fuel and send me that way. That sounds horrible. Yeah. It just sounds horrible.
Yeah, exactly.
So both of you just want to be in that character instead of be in a real astronaut in life.
100%. 100%. Yeah.
This is Jamestown Actual. Okay, people, 10 seconds. 10 seconds. Mark. Enjoy the show, everyone.
Since you've been talking to a lot of real astronauts for, preparing these roles, do you find anything interesting in the real life? I mean, for the real astronauts' life, and do you think they see aliens before?
Aliens?
That's a new one.
That's a really good question, Liza. I don't know about any alien life. I am interviewing a lot of astronauts for the podcast that I'm doing for our show. And, the one thing that I kind of realize is the common theme, which I see a lot in our story too, is that they all want to go back. Some of the astronauts have been retired for 10 years, some retired for 20 years, and they all want to go back. Every single one of them. I think it's addictive. Yeah.
Wow. I thought that's very lonely.
Yeah, no, they love it. They absolutely love it. They feel much like our character Molly Cobb. I think they feel more at home in many ways in orbit than they do on Earth. for sure.
We have friends out there.
Yeah.
And you are wrapping up us.
All I would really add to that is that, I think in some ways, I at least for sure, people take space travel for granted. But when you really, especially if you're not in the space program or if you don't work at JPL or NASA, really trying to wrap your head around how far away the moon is, that it's over 240,000 miles away. I mean, just really thinking about people have stood on the moon and people are still going. It's just, and when you also look at the capsules that people flew in, I mean, they do look like tin cans. Yeah. I still marvel at that stuff. I just think it's absolutely dumbfounding and incredible.
Thank you so much for both of you, and wish you good luck.
Thank you.
Hope to see you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Once we do this thing, there's no going back.
History has asked much of the Americans of our time. Much more we must be prepared to give.